Welcome back, legends. I hope you're all amazing. We're going to be checking out the Yamaha FX900 today, which is kind of like having a bunch of SPX90's in one box. You can control things like the algorithm routing and various effect types. I have to give a massive shout out to the one and only patron saint of this channel, Mr. Brian Hook, for sending this unit over to me to check out. Let's get straight into it. Are you excited, Tibby? Let's start with some filth. I've got my PRS in drop C. We're going to hear the effect bypass, then I will kick the unit in on the symphonic patch. I'll bring in some plate reverb and some stereo dual delay as well. Super greasy. It has all the character that I'm personally used to from stuff like the symphonic effect and the plate reverb from the SPX90. You do have the ability in each preset to change the routing of the various blocks, what they call the algorithm structure. So you can see here, we've got a parametric EQ, which is bypass, going into the symphonic effect. That feeds out in parallel to a reverb and a delay. Let's bring up a different preset. I'll bring up this one right here, appropriately titled, yeah, because we have some parametric EQ, again, disabled. I haven't found a whole bunch of use for this particular block aside from the digital distortions, which have their own thing going on. We'll hear them later, but we've got the symphonic effect going into a delay, going into some stereo pitch detune. Let's hear this. If I wanted to reroute that so this detune is before the delay, I can do this. I can hit the flip button, and I've got to get this the right way around. I can hit the delay block, which flashes now, and then the pitch is in, I think, reverb 1. So I can swap those, hit flip, and the order will change on there. Let's hear that now. That sounds a little more appropriate to me. I'm going to bypass the symphonic effect. I'm going to bypass the delay in there so we can just hear this detune. What do we actually have going on there? So it's plus or minus 11 cents either side. Check it out. do now is I'll let you hear the delay on its own in here. What delay do we have? I'm pretty sure this is a stereo, so it's called delay 2, which is basically just a stereo delay. There is a really interesting feature on here, and ignore all the weird noises behind me. My cat is just having a great time on their own, aren't you? All right. This means I have to race through this video because the cat wants some playtime. So what do we have here? We have controls over the width, the mix, and the level. Then delay left and delay right. What I find really interesting is you have feedback delay. So I should bring up a screenshot in here if I remember of the manual. But basically you set your left and right delay times and they feed outwards. But before that, you set a different delay time for the feedback in there, which is really, really interesting. I'll give you an idea of what it does. First, let's just hear this setting. Okay, if I turn this feedback delay all the way up, you're going to hear the initial delays, then 740 milliseconds, and you'll hear those offset delays again. That's really, really interesting. I don't know of any other units that have that particular feature in there. The way I would think about using it is essentially you can set up your first 2 delays as like a spatial effect. You could use them for slapback, and then you've got your actual, thing that's going to repeat through there and re-trigger those delays as a long delay. So that's super interesting. Reverbs, we have a variety of different reverbs in here, which I need to go in here and select because I don't want the pitch. I want an actual reverb in here. So we've got reverb 1. There is the Yamaha early reflections in there, which I really, really like. But let's select a reverb, come over here. We've got different types in here. What do we have? I'm going to turn that one up. We've got hall, room, and plate. Let's start with this plate. 1.5 seconds. We've got like high frequency damping in there. The higher it goes, the more high end you have. I think that's how it works anyway. Pre-delay, we've got a low pass or a high pass filter in here. You can set the cutoff frequency as well. I'll just play around with, let's bring the mix up a little bit so we can really hear it. And then we'll just play around with the different reverb types. So the hall is really nice and lush. Like that's a typical Yamaha sounding hall to me. All these effects have a distinct Yamaha character, which I really like. Stuff like the symphonic, stuff like these reverbs. And then let's bring the reverb time down a little bit and we'll just hear a room on here. In terms of modulation effects, I've already talked about the symphonic effect that is living in here. And what do I actually have on here? Let's look at the algorithm. We're going to hear the chorus. Now, just a straight up chorus. And I've got, what do I want? I want to tweak the mod. So I've got to press this button. Got the mix at 50%, the level at 0, speed at 1.3 hertz. And you can see the other parameters on there. Let's just hear what the chorus sounds like. And then maybe we will hear some different modulation effects like the trem and the flanger. heard some of the delays. There is a multi-tap delay with 6 different delay taps where you can control the individual level of each delay and the panning. I've set this up for what? 200 milliseconds, 400 milliseconds, 600, 800, and 1 second with various amounts of panning in here. This one sounds wild. Rerouted everything so that I'm in front of a pair of clean amps in my Axe FX3. Let's hear the bypass tone. I'm going to bring in the compressor, then some delay, chorus, and reverb to emulate a patch that I read in the manual of the Yamaha FX900. Let's hear this. There's also a distortion section that we can hear before these amps. So I've turned the distortion all the way up to 200. We've got an EQ section over here. I'm actually just going to pump up the low gain a little bit, pull out a bit more of this mid-range at 2K, and I'll leave the high frequencies where they are. How bad can this be? Yeah, it can be that bad, I guess. Let's EQ this a little bit and see if I can pull out low. And let's actually pump up the mids at maybe like 800 Hertz if I can get that low over here. So kind of like a Boston-y style thing. Let's go overboard with the mids and I'll smooth everything out by bringing down some high gain. let's hear that with the symphonic effect, and I will bring in some delay with the level a little bit lower than it was before. So let's do this. Let's set the mix to not much on there, like somewhere around 10, 20. So the distortion section is probably a no from me. The other modules on there sound incredible. They sound like an SPX90 without all the extra noise. The parametric EQ and the compressors are very handy in there. For example, if you were using this and you wanted a solo boost, you could set up your parametric EQ to do that. If you wanted to use this in front of an amp like I did with the soft focus patch there, the compressor is handy. But the distortions, let's face it, nowadays you're not going to buy one of these units for that particular distortion if you're going for the sort of lead guitar sound that people who probably like to watch my videos are going to enjoy. But maybe you could run like an old drum machine through this on that terrible distortion and get some character out of it. I know stuff like the Zoom 9030, which I've also featured on the channel before, 9 Inch Nails used those for that reason, that it didn't sound like a guitar amp. So maybe there is some magic in there. I kind of believe with distortion, there's really no such thing as a bad distortion pedal. It's just context dependent. And for the context that I'm in at the moment, the distortion circuit in this isn't super appropriate. So, I'll just leave it off for now. Lots and lots of tones that we went through, mostly filthy tones today, so I will play you all out with some pitch detune and some delay and reverb with a clean sound. Let me know what you thought of the Yamaha FX900 in the comments section below. Personally, for me, this feels like everything I like about an SPX90 with none of the downsides, because you can essentially just run 3 patches into one another there in various combinations. It's got that Yamaha character that I personally love from their old rack units, and it's way less noisy. It's got a pretty cool foot controller that this one came with, so it's really easy to turn effects on and off. And for me, I think this is a winner. But as always, I would love to hear from you in the comments. And if you want to support my channel directly, there are some links in the video description. Shout out again to the one and only Brian Hook for sending this one over. I hope you all have a fantastic day. I'll see you next time.